wanted to talk about Tether today, and sort of wanted to jump right into it without too much preparation, without like discussing it with you beforehand, because might as well get these thoughts out on the video for everyone to hear, right?
Sure. Why don't you tell me first before you throw out Tether? What is it?
So there are cryptocurrencies. We've covered that before. They're digital currencies. Their value goes up and down. But Tether is what's called a stable coin. The value does not go up and down. It's stable. It's pegged at exactly $1. There's a few of these stable coins. Tether it's the biggest of them all in terms of how many of them have been bought.
Okay. All right. So they're the ones, were they out first? Is that why they're the biggest, or they just do it the best? What's their story?
Well, I mean, there are some discrepancies as far as that is concerned. I don't know if they're the first. They've been around since 2015, so it's pretty early in the market either way. But the discrepancies are, well, how did they get so big so fast? And this is kind of what this discussion is about, because a lot of people are very suspicious of Tether and how they gain their value and how they sell their Tether. And it's pretty complicated. It's pretty complicated for a casual discussion like this that we're trying to have for everyone to watch. But I'm going to try to cover some basics real quick. Now, is there anything that you know about Tether that you'd like to throw in the ring before I cover some other details?
What I know about Tether, and I just want to kind of continue with the stablecoin thing. You said it was backed by the dollar. I know at one point on the Tether website, it said that every Tether will be backed by a physical US dollar. Is that correct?
Well, that might be, that's where the discrepancies come in.
Okay.
That may be what they're saying, and that is definitely what they should be doing. But the U.S. government has sued Tether because there seems to be some evidence that that is not the case. And apparently one of the things that Tether, the company, disclosed is that they actually have only somewhere in the 70% backed by the US dollar. 73 or 78, something like that. So they took in all these dollars, and they took a roughly a quarter of the value of that. A quarter of that did something else with it and didn't actually save it to back those Tethers, which right there, that's a big old red flag. Like,
so can I ask you a question? Are they minting these Tethers then out of thin air?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. In fact, a lot of people liken it to how the U.S. federal government is just minting dollars out of thin air, just on the computer.
Yeah. Didn't we just talk about that the other day when we were talking about China and everything, and how America we're printing this money off left and right?
Yeah. And it's funny to even say printing anymore these days, because they don't print actual dollars anymore. It's just a button on a computer and they say create. They call it printing, but it's actually just,
wait a minute,
they fill in the blank.
Wait a minute. Are you saying we're already on a digital currency in America?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, we, to a large degree, we're not backed by gold. We're not even backed by dollars anymore. It's basically a virtual currency.
Full faith and credit of the U.S. government, right?
I mean, and that is the difference that people would argue with Tether. Well,
do you remember that scene in Dumb and Dumber where he's like opens up the suitcase and the money's supposed to be in there, and then it's a bunch of IOUs? Kind of feels like that, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great analogy. That should be
it's
a
as
meme.
Good as money.
Yeah. That should be a meme for how the U.S. government works, and oddly enough, for how Tether works. And the crazy thing is people are talking about how, cryptos are the safe haven, the hedge against what's going on in the U.S. Government. But you've got this Tether problem. Now you might say, oh, well, Tether, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is, well, there's two main issues as far as I'm concerned. One is that, I mean, they have minted or printed billions and billions of dollars, somewhere between 20 and 30 billion of these things.
Oh my gosh.
Now, compared to the whole crypto market, and even compared to the market cap of Bitcoin, It's not that huge of an amount, but it's enough to make a big difference. And that's where point two comes in, is that there's a lot of people who are already suspicious of cryptos. They still think it's a scam, a Ponzi, and for them it hasn't really shaken off the stench of the dark money, the dark web of the early days of cryptos and stuff like that. So for Tether, if it's proven that Tether is a fraud, then that could have really serious ramifications for the entire crypto market for those
Well,
reasons.
I would agree with you all up into the point of I think it would have serious ramifications for stablecoins more than maybe even for Bitcoin, but it would have impact on Bitcoin and other alternative coins that aren't in the stable market if indeed they are using it to buy those. And there's no basis of value to those stable coins. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I really think that there's a difference in stable coins. Like there's another stable coin called USDC. Um, the symbol for Tether is USDT. So the USDC coin, it's I think it's based in the United States. Tether is not, and so I think there's much more transparency with
Mhm.
USDC. And I'd at this point fully trust that stable coin. Um, well, another big problem with Tether is that that company owns a crypto exchange, Bitfinex. And
Right.
so it's like, okay, how were they able to fraudulently exchange? So the deal is they mint as many tethers as they want. They exchange it for Bitcoin on their exchange. People will buy it, buy their Bitcoin in exchange, and then they get Bitcoin for their fake, maybe possibly fake tether, and then sell that Bitcoin back into dollars. So they're
Sure.
kind of the thought that this hasn't been proven yet, and this is where we'll get to the litigation, is that some people are concerned that they're just creating these out of thin air. It's not actually backed by enough dollars or purchased by enough people. And they're kind of just fraudulently pulling money out of the crypto market for themselves. That's the problem.
I mean, to be honest with you, one of the things that I read, Dean, was the fact that since 2018, they haven't really been audited. And they are kind of an organization that doesn't care to be audited as well. And I understand there's three pieces to the puzzle. You've got Tether, you've got Bitfinex, and then you've got the parent company, iFinex, all owned and run and operated by the same group of people. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And also, supposedly they have all the dollars that they're supposed to have backing those tether. It's an offshore bank account. So all these billions and billions and billions are being supposed to be held in this bank. Well, they have a very friendly relationship with this bank, and I saw an interview recently with the CEO of the bank, and he was like a very young guy. He was like in his 20s. It didn't seem like that serious of a person, and every question he dodged. So it's not just the trifecta of the tether, but their supposed bank they're working with, and they're all avoiding these audits. So a lot of red flags there, frankly, to tell
Right.
you the truth. It's something I've been tracking for a long time, really keeping my eye on, and it really has some big potential to affect the crypto markets.
Yeah. So basically, if you believe what we're talking about, and then, yeah, I don't even know, I'm not even 100% on it because I don't know the entire story. But if it's true, then these guys are literally printing money out of thin air and they're exchanging it for something of value. So it's like they're counterfeiters of ultimately of Bitcoin or whatever they're going to use to, whatever they're going to buy with their dollar stable coin. So it's pretty interesting situation. I could see it could have impact on Bitcoin if they find out that a lot of the times if Tether's being used in exchange for these things and there's no basis of value for Tether, then is there a basis in value of Bitcoin being over $50,000 or $60,000 today? Did that help push that price up at some point?
Well, that is the $64,000 question right there. That
Yeah.
is what people are trying to figure out. Now, there are some deadlines or due dates coming up here in approximately, well, here's what happens. The U.S. The government sued them to get audits and documentation, and it keeps getting delayed because, big businesses with lots of lawyers are good at delaying things, right? So it keeps getting delayed. So in approximately 8 days, they are supposed to prove something with some documents or something like that. However, I have recently, and I actually thought of how that might affect my personal crypto position in the next few days. However, I said to myself, well, the problem is you don't want to sell everything or a lot because of this deadline coming, and then they figure out how to delay it again, and then the market just keeps going on a tear. And I actually have found some evidence in their paperwork that they will be able to delay again for another 30 days. Now, that's not for sure. This isn't financial advice. No one should take my personal opinion for what they're going to do. I'm just saying how that affects my personal trading. And at this time, unless I see more evidence, at this time, I'm not going to be adjusting my position because of the Tether situation. Because I think if they do get delayed again for another 30 days, I mean, the market could double in the next 30 days. And so I want to stay in for that reason still.
Well, I think a lot of people were nervous about what was even happening with XRP. If we could kind of pull that in. And back on January 17th, they closed down in America, they closed down all activity related to buying and selling XRP. A lot of people sold out their positions and lost a lot of money because they sold it out at the least price that they could, which was about 20 cents. In fact, I think it went down to about 17 cents. I held my positions and I just put it into cold storage. It was just one of those things. And today now XRP is trading over $1.60 as they continue to make progress moving forward. And the whole market, I can't remember that day if the whole market was impacted by the XRP move or if it was really just XRP. I'd have to go back and look at the charts. But the reality is I think what you're talking about and what you're planning on doing for your portfolio is similar to what I was planning on doing, is kind of take a wait and see approach. I do have a little cash on the side. I did cash out of some of my positions recently, but that's just sitting there waiting for a buying opportunity. And maybe this is a buying opportunity, but I don't see, knowing the numbers and knowing it's 30 billion, that sounds like a lot of money. But given the fact that it's a $2 trillion market right now, I think we have to kind of keep that in mind, that it's a fraction of a percent of the overall market. And while it may have a dip, it might be a great buying opportunity for people, or it might unravel the whole thing. Who knows? I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens in either 8 days or 38 days from now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's talking about the XRP. That makes a great point. I mean, it seems like they often, the whales or that's what they call it. The whales are the people who own a huge amount of crypto, and they have the ability to push around the markets. And it seems like they like to use the specter of bad news to scare the markets. Everybody
Right.
sells, and then they like to buy it at those low prices and pump it right back up and way past where it was. So it's really a balancing act between not falling for that, but also being protective enough of your portfolio to not be destroyed on the downside when it actually does come.
Sure, sure. Awesome. Well, I think I have a better understanding of what Tether is. I think that wraps it up for me in terms of what I need to know. I hope our audience understands all this. I know
Yeah, it's kind of
it's a
that's kind
lot.
of just a sort of a broad overview, but covers kind of the basics, and it's something we'll be keeping our eye on some more in the future. But there's a lot of details and moving parts to it. But I think that at least introduces our audience to the idea and the issues going on in this area.
Yeah, and let me just go back to the beginning and just ask this question. What was the original purpose of creating a stable coin?
Well, that's a good question, but just as far as the way that I would personally use it, and I don't know of every possible way of using it, but it would be great if you could go in and out of crypto coins for different purposes and different functions. So let's say you wanted some Bitcoin, but then you wanted to move it into a coin where you didn't have to worry about the value fluctuating so much. You could take some of that out, put it here, and maybe use it for a different purpose, not freaking out and going, "Oh my God, while I'm waiting to use it for that purpose, it's going up or it's sinking." So I think it's kind of a utilitarian sort of aspect to cryptos.
Yeah, and I was curious if maybe there's some of these exchanges that don't even allow you to bring in U.S. dollars to their exchange. You have to come in either Bitcoin or some other form of cryptocurrency. Do you know if
Right.
Tether was used that way?
I don't, that's a really great question. All of those types of exchanges that I've seen, they're always saying to bring in Bitcoin, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised. That seems like that would be actually a very good use for that, but I don't have
Well, I
personal
bet you on
experience.
Bitfinex that's probably the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great stuff. Great stuff. I know it's kind of a complicated topic, and I try to steer clear of those things personally because I like to simplify everything for myself. But I think understanding that there's something going on like this that could impact us, I think it's kind of important news, don't you?
I do. Yep.
All right. Well, cool, cool. I just have one last question. If truly this is what they're doing and they're making a bunch of money doing it, in theory, should we be making our own stable coin?
Absolutely. Preferably one offshore where we have a friendly relationship with a bank nearby.
That sounds great. I call that guy from that interview, right?
Yeah.
We'll get him we'll get him hooked up. Great chatting with you today, Dean. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care, Gary.